Are there events or actions that cause you not to support a comic and then retroactively hate the stories that came before you knew this terrible thing occurred? It's actually a very complex question, and I think the answer is different for every individual. But that's what we're going to talk about. Hey everybody, this is Perch. This is a interesting topic because there's a lot that's said today, and you hear it all the time of, hey, a creator said something or blocked me. They don't want my money. I'm not going to support them. And as I've always said, I think that's a personal decision. It's your choice. I think that everybody should nobody should get on anybody's back for making that statement. If they don't feel good about where their money is going, don't spend your money. Whatever the case is, to me that's pretty cut and dry. And I think there's a lot of reasons why people don't like somebody. For many years, and I think even still today, there's a comic artist that was just kind of casually rude to me, and didn't even really do anything wrong. Just kind of casually rude. I don't know what it is about that moment, but it's stuck in my head. And so when I see that artist is on a book, I have an immediate kind of negative reaction to it, and it's irrational. It doesn't make any sense. I completely acknowledge that, but it's how humans work. They have their own kind of way of holding on to things or letting things go, and that's normal, and you can't browbeat somebody for that. But I'm going into a little bit deeper on this topic, not just like, hey, there was a Twitter comment made and somebody was rude and now I don't want to support their books. Let me use an example here, and I'm going to use one that I haven't used this one I think in a while, but Erik Esquivel is a writer, and he had a comic that was kind of one of the bigger touted books out of the new Vertigo launch of a couple of years ago. I think 2018. I want to say time is weird how it goes, but anyway, he had a title, and he was paired up with Ramon Villalobos, I believe, Tamara Bondvillain. They were the ones on this book, and the idea was that the title was called Border Town, and it was a kind of border story tackling sort of illegal immigration, but also horror and monsters and creatures. And I made a comment. I remember when this title was first announced, saying, "This is an interesting premise. I hope it goes more into the horror and less into the politics, because the politics can shift. Meaning, if you hook your book too much on, Trump's wall and border stuff, which, in fairness, the attention and noise around Trump's wall and border stuff is a lot less than it was even 1 year ago. We've moved on to other things that Trump has done. So it's like hooking a comic off of that topic would kind of lose a lot of its buzz. Anyway, I made this one tweet. Kind of, I hope it focuses on the horror. A horror movie set in kind of Mexico, kind of that southwestern feel. Actually, pretty cool. I think that's Robert Rodriguez has done several films in that area, and so that's a good thing to tap into. I'm in favor. But so Erik Esquivel replies to me in Twitter saying, oh, there will be lots of horror, but don't you think Trump's wall is a horror? And I'm like, okay, dude. I mean, sure. Just promote your comic. Don't, at this time, I think I had like all of like 600 or 800 followers on Twitter. I mean, I'm not saying that's nothing, but I mean, you got better things to do. I think. Anyway, I remember seeing that. I'm like, oh, this is off to a good start. But then we got to issue number 3 or 4, I think 4, that just shipped. And suddenly some allegations come out around that Erik Esquivel allegedly performed kind of sexual and physical abuse to a partner and colleague. And suddenly it's not so funny. Actually, I will say appropriately, his artist and his artist and the colorist, Ramon Villalobos and Tamara Bondvillain, both were quiet for about 24 hours or so, maybe 48 hours when the allegations hit. And everybody was like, aha, Tamara Bonvillain's always attacking others, but now here she is silent about her own person. And then after 24, about 48 hours, 2 days, both of them come out saying, this is unacceptable. We're going to leave the book. This is, gross and wrong. And I refuse to support it, which, by the way, for lack of everything else, I think is the correct way. When an allegation comes out, you wait, you see if there's some proof, you wait for an investigation to take place. You make sure that you're not jumping on something that is fictional, and then you make your statement. So I think I'm glad that Tamara Bonvillain and Ramon Villalobos both used restraint and then acted. I think that's correct. They don't. Tamara Bonvillain in particular has a reputation for not doing that. Of just the first whiff of any allegation, she's got torches out and angry at people. So I think that was a good thing. And by the way, I'm saying this. People sometimes they come in the comments like, "Why are you defending Tamara Bonvillain?" Don't. Tamara Bonvillain is one of those people who ran a blockchain against everybody. Like nothing I'm saying right now scores any points with her. Don't don't worry. I think I I mean I'm just trying. Fair is fair. The way I view it is fair is fair. And if we want better behavior out of people, if we want standards and we want good things to happen, then we should praise good actions and we should be negative to bad actions. That's my view anyway. So Erik Esquivel gets the thing gets canceled. The title Border Town goes away. He fights back initially. That's not my recollection. And he kind of succumbs, and then he gets kind of weirdly sarcastic about it. And then DC drops the title, and a little bit of a tirade follows, and everything else. And so then now comes the question. Okay, so here's this writer, who allegedly did something pretty nasty, pretty bad. The allegations were not pleasant. No, nobody can read this going, well, this person deserved it, or I mean, it was no, it was not a good thing. So, do you go back in time and do you pitch or go sell Esquivel's books, things he's worked on? If you collected Border Town 1 through 4 and you liked the series, can you no longer read it since it's from the voice of this author? I had a customer come in with issues 1 through 4 going, I can't have this. I no, I just don't want this in my house. How much are you going to give me for them? Will you take my money back? And it's like, well, so you're dealing with that situation. I think it's and I think this is the interesting question about art. If somebody does something particularly bad, what does it mean for the work you previously enjoyed? Do you feel tricked? Do you feel like, dirty, like you've been drawn into this person's kind of evil plot? Is it just, how can you separate the art from the artist? It's a phrase that people use all the time. You have to separate the art from the artist. But what if somebody does something particularly horrible and bad? What do you do? I think it's a hard thing, and like this, I said, I think everybody's got a unique individual perspective on this, and there's not a single right answer. But let's say you're watching, or take Hollywood. A lot of people have enjoyed Harvey Weinstein's films that he produced. When you see his name come up on a film, what do you do? Do you still watch it? Do you still enjoy it? Are you so sickened by the actions of the man that you can't see it anymore? What about the rest of the team that contributed to the book? If you really are a big fan of Tamara Bonvillain or Ramon Villalobos, can you be able to look at these pages and their artwork and their coloring and say, hey, this is still pretty cool stuff, or is it ruined for you? I think it's very, like I said, everybody has their own line of where to draw it. And why I think this topic is an interesting one is today, on a much different scale, or I don't know, maybe depending on your point of view, you have people like Art Filbert. I was watching or seeing some comments roll in for some people in the industry say, well, Art Filbert threw in with Comicsgate, and I will never like any of his books again. I own some of his previous work. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to sell it. Why? Because he said that he was, basically hosed by some people at Marvel. He was treated badly, and he's in favor of this creator movement? Is that it? Is it because that he's on speaking terms with Ethan Van Sciver or John Malin? Is that enough? And again, I don't think these questions have right or wrong answers. They're your answers. But what pushes you to suddenly dislike a comic so much that you have to get rid of it? You have to get rid of things you previously enjoyed. I know other people who liked Ethan Van Sciver's work on Green Lantern. They thought he was a great artist, favorite artist of the run. I've heard that before. And then they get wind of the whole comic skate, the videos, and hating Star Wars and Rose Tiku toys and all the rest. And then suddenly it's like, I got to get rid of all this Ethan Van Sciver stuff in my house. Is that is that you? What would make you basically turn your back or want to drop things you previously loved because you can no longer separate the artist from the work? What is it? I think that in general, it's easier, it's healthier, it's better if you can not get hung up on what these people do in their personal lives when they're creators. I think by and large, and I know there's limits. The Erik Esquivel situation, it was allegedly pretty terrible, and so you can't just say, well, what this guy does in his private life is his own business. It's not really anymore when you're committing things that could be crimes. But how can you? I mean, it's an odd behavior to me to totally want to divorce yourself from the past when you have something that you did enjoy that previously you loved, and now it's got to be thrown away. Now it's gone forever. It's strange behavior, I would say. I mean, I know there are people, and there's different things. There's people who got wind of what Dave Sim has done over on Cerebus, and they can no longer have that book in their house, or they go back and they read the stories and they read it in a new light. They're like, what once seemed like a kind of innocent allegory now sounds like a kind of a screed on you know misandry, or well, not obviously not that sexism. It wouldn't be coming out of Dave Sim. So I think that's just it's interesting how out of work behavior. And with that, I'll ask one final question, and we'll wrap this thing up. Does is one way to think about this that maybe social media and following these people and being able to get more into their personal lives and their personal thoughts, personal opinions, maybe that's not a good thing, because if somebody has a thought like they really support. Here's a weird one. I had somebody come and say, I can't support that creator, and for the love of me, I can't remember who that creator was. I can't support this creator because they support Tulsi Gabbard, the candidate, the Democrat candidate for president. I can't support Tulsi Gabbard, and so I can't support this creator. So I've got to remove this comic from my pull list. And I remember thinking, good gravy. I mean, who? That's a weird thing to be against. I think you don't like a political candidate who has zero chance of winning, and because one of the creators on a book supports this one political candidate that has no chance of winning, you can't support their comics anymore. That seems weird to me, but okay. I I don't know. I guess I'm perplexed by licensing, but like I said at the very beginning, there was a creator who was rude to me, and it always pops into my head. Maybe somebody's walking around and they're like, I'd love to see that comic, but every time I look at it and I see that creator's name, I think Tulsi Gabbard, and I just can't stand that woman. So no. Okay, everybody has their own thing. What's yours? So I'll wrap this thing up. I'd like to open up for comments. I meant this as a thought-provoking question. So hopefully we get some good comments in here. I'd like to know, first of all, do you have a line? What is that line? Do you stop buying a comic, or do you go back in time and rip up all your comics? If you are a big Richard Meyer supporter and you hate Mark Waid, do you go and sell off Kingdom Come? Do you get rid of his work on Fantastic Four? Or do you just stop reading his work going forward? Do you not subscribe to Doctor Strange? Where do you sit? Or do you not care? And you're like, I'm going to read Doctor Strange till I like Doctor Strange. I care less who's writing it. Even if I don't like the guy, I'm going to read Doctor Strange. Is that you? Where do you fit in all this? I would love to know your thoughts, your opinions on the matter. Is all this kind of weird? Is it strange when all is said and done? I'd like to know your ideas and thoughts on that too. Hey, give me a like this video if you don't mind. Subscribe. Uh, Always helpful to support the channel. Thank you very much. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. Most importantly, hey, thanks for listening.